This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Certain tracks are practically a must for the Lotus 49 to be included on a schedule. Whether it's a historical tie-in or popularity with the drivers, you see some old favorites come back again and again. Places like Mosport, Spa, and Watkins Glen attract many for their relevance to the car, while circuits like the Nürburgring and Bathurst are seen as extreme challenges meant to test everyone's mettle. But there's one that stands out all on its own because there's nothing quite like it: Monza's combined oval circuit. As soon as this track was released, the 49 drivers jumped at the chance to attempt the psychotic combination. It turned out to be a gas for both the drivers and the viewers. So prepare yourself for a treat as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, I'd say this is the must-watch race every season. What a wild ride.
Absolutely. You know, iRacing has 4 different license classes of racing. There's oval, road, dirt oval, and dirt road. You might think of a Lotus 49 race here to be just a road race, but I think this one especially combines the qualities of all 4. Today we are at Autodromo Nazionale Monza, and it's not just the Monza you may be used to. This is the original layout of the Temple of Speed. It's not just Monza's GP layout that bypasses the Turn 1 chicane either. Today the race starts on the high old banks of the Monza Oval that was run by Formula 1 in the 1950s by some of the bravest racers that the world has ever seen. The banking in Alta Velocita, fittingly for this weekend, rivals the likes of Talladega, but instead shows abrasiveness of a lot more than any oval track that you can find in North America. Second, the dirt side of things. We know that these Lotus 49s like to show their lack of downforce. That being said, though, back on the GP course, fast turns like Curva Grande and Parabolica, even the Ascari chicane, are gonna showcase sliding that will trip up even some of the most veteran racers. Finally, you may be wondering where Rallycross comes into this. Well, the transition from the oval to the road course, you may want to bring your best suspension and fasten your seatbelt because you are going airborne. In total, that makes up 13 insane turns over 10 grueling kilometers, where drafting is also going to play a huge factor. But don't take my word for it. Allow us to show you firsthand the terrifying nature of this beast of a venue in the GSRC Lap Guide.
All right, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Monza. Coming up to the first half of the oval, aim for the high side because the banking is actually so steep that it will start to steer the car in for you. In fact, you have to countersteer slightly to keep it from sending you to the apron and getting the car all kinds of wonky. On exit, you'll need a little more steering input since your momentum starts to pull the car towards the outside fence. If you've timed your run right, you can slingshot past the car in front of you down the backstretch. But unless it's a last lap situation, I wouldn't advise trying to go too wide into the second half of the oval. Just like before, you've got to hold wide and countersteer. This and the narrow track make it very treacherous to do anything but single file around the oval. Hope you've got a big pair though, because now comes the jump. Let the car drift a little high, then swing it back low and try your best to keep the car straight over the crest. You can see I wasn't quite perfect, and even that tiny bit of sideways momentum makes for a scary landing. If you're in a pack, sideways landings almost always lead to the big one. Once more, the drafting game is going to be played down the traditional front stretch. Here, it's a lot more viable to go too wide into Curva Grande. You can even attempt to outbrake your opponent. Try to get the power down early, and if you've lined it up right, you can countersteer your way out of the corner with your foot down the whole way out. You can hear I had to lift slightly to keep it together. After that, switch sides and brake hard for Della Rosia. You can take quite a bit of curb on the left and get away with it. Then straighten her out and throw out the anchors for the first Lesmo. A late apex is better than what I've got going on here, though if you compromise your exit a little bit, it's okay because it's not often passes are attempted into the second Lesmo. Don't be afraid to be aggressive on the inside curb here and really focus on getting to the gas as soon as you can. This is a pretty long straight we'll be flying down. With the braking into Ascari coming up, it's a very popular passing spot. Expect a lot of aggressive defending into here. Under the bridge, spot your brake marker, then ideally you want to get the rear rotated on entry. Hug tight to the right through the second apex, and then be careful not to clobber the sausage curb on the third one so that you have an easier time applying the power. Use up all the pavement to your right, and then get on the loud pedal again. Parabolica can offer a chance to pass on the last lap, but you'd be foolish to do it any other time because of the draft on the oval. Just like Ascari, try to get the rear of the car to rotate on entry, and then ease onto the throttle on exit. I tend to try and short shift to help me find traction. Getting the launch out of here is incredibly critical to lap times, so avoid hesitation. Hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Monza.
They see a lap around Monza. That, however, was without the chicane that they are using after Curva Grande, which is Della Rosia. And that will offer one extra chance to pass today. We'll see if anybody really is interested in taking it, though. Taking a look at the points championship, up at the top, it is still Mick Claridge because both Mick and Rob had horrible days at Zolder. That allows Gary Thiel to close in on them up to third position. Uwe Trangrade gets bumped down one, and Daniel Sadro actually jumps up 2 spots into P5. Let's take a look at the F2 championship. Nick, where's that stand?
Over there, Hugh Haycox continues to lead that one, this time by 22 points. And it's not over Hideki Koivisto, it's over Grant Patullo from Australia back there, who's jumped up to second. The Finn is down into third, 8 points behind Grant in second. Colin Coker is going to be 52 points behind this all in fourth place. He jumps up past Francisco Gutierrez, who falls to fifth. So a bit of shuffling over there, something to watch out for. And of course, they also have those 2 drop weeks, so that'll also play in a factor late in the season.
And of course, they have a Constructors' Championship, which is actually a Nations Cup. And the United States has now overtaken the UK for the top spot once again. Australia also jumps up one. They find themselves in third. That's moving down Germany. And then Finland joins us once again. They keep flirting with the bottom spot here in the Nations Cup, sitting in fifth for the moment, very close to Germany. Just in case we have anybody who hasn't tuned in, and, well, if they have, welcome, because you're in for a treat, like I said. But, Nick, what's today's race details?
Well, I already mentioned the 2 drop weeks, but that goes along with the fact that this is round 7 of 12, past the halfway mark. We're starting to get down to the nitty-gritty, where points really starting to become a factor. Drivers they know who they're fighting against, they know what they're fighting for as well. 13 laps doesn't sound like a whole lot, but remember, this is a 10-kilometer course here. It's over 6.2 miles in total. Open setups, they can tweak whatever they can here that they want to in the Lotus 49s, and the points, they pay out all the way from first down to 25th. And conveniently, we've got 25 cars today.
And once again, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure when you get the opportunity to subscribe, all you got to do is go to their YouTube page, click the big red button that says subscribe, and you'll get all of the Lotus 49 races in your YouTube feed. You can see them working their way around the oval for their second timed lap right now. And actually, things are looking a little bit critical for Michel Dudignon. Usually he is one of the drivers up towards the top in the timing sheets. And unfortunately for Michel, his first lap did not count. He must have had an off track. Mick Claridge instead is sitting on the provisional pole.
Riding along with Dudignon right now. It's so surprising to some maybe to see how much they have to brake and slow down there for Curva Grande. Usually a turn that you can just take flat out in a lot of cars. They really have to whoa it up and be careful through sections like that.
And I mentioned it when I did my video with Mick earlier this week. If you get a chance, go check that out. Mick and I had a nice little chat during his weekly lap guide when he's been having guests this season. That Curva Grande is so fun to drive through, just the way you can get the car a little bit sideways. And you see Mick himself working his way down towards Ascari. They're just barely going to get these second laps in. It's so long around this lap, nearly 2.5 minutes. So he swings it through this last little chicane down towards Parabolica. You mentioned as well, Nick, how difficult it can be to get the power down out of this final corner.
Absolutely. There's so many things here just like that are going to trip up these drivers today. And that comes with veteran drivers and newcomers because, like you said, this is really kind of an oddball track that they like to throw in the schedule. It's a lot of fun, but it'll definitely trip up a couple of really veteran and experienced drivers.
Second lap even faster for McClarridge. So Dudignon crosses and only good enough for second place. Claridge actually, I think, just went faster on his second lap than Michel's only timed lap. Uwe Trangrade is going to be in third. So Ian Haycox we see coming across, who was sitting in 19th. And I believe he improved. And I just lost him on my timing sheet. Didn't see. Oh, he went up to 10th, it looks like. So, checkered flag is now out. Qualifying is over. Let's go through your starting order here today. Mick Claridge, as I said, put it on the pole with Michel Dudignon starting second. Ove Trangrade starts row 2 and third with Rob Olenek putting it in fourth. Gary Teal will be P5 with Matt Wright starting 6th. Hugh Haycox will be 7th. And then Daniel Sadro starts 8th. Philippe Urquhart will start in 9th, and Ian Haycox, as I mentioned, rounds out your top 10.
The 7 of Armin Weber is going to be in 11th. The 15 of Hideki Koivisto alongside of him in 12th. Michael Thomas, Don Good, and Colin Coker will round out the top 15. 16th goes to Aaron Eng, and Glenn Backless will be in 17th alongside Harry Gropler in 18th in the 22 car. Jasmine Beach and Marco Ravalli are going to be rounding out the 20 cars that decided to set a qualifying time. Michael Sullivan, Andres Bruno, David Sanchez, Stuart John, and Francisco Salima will be the 5 cars starting towards the back in this big 25-car field that chose not to set a qualifying time.
In fact, a couple of the drivers mentioning they just wanted to start at the back due to lack of experience. Not the worst thing in the world, however, they could potentially lose out on the opportunity to finish higher up. We will see draft trains throughout this race. That will be for certain. As the lights come up, engines start to rev. Green flag is out here at Monza. Mick Claridge did not get a good start. Michel Dudignon initially gets a good start, but then backs out of it. Ove Trangrade as well, just slotting in behind. Rob Olenek losing out, getting a bit of a gap behind. They come through the first set of banking on the oval towards the backstretch. Otherwise, a very calm start.
Yeah, it was a great start for Michel Dudignon. I just don't think he wanted to get that big of a run to the inside, but look at the huge run coming from behind him, Rob Olenek.
And he is going all the way to the front. He is not sitting around. Mick Claridge gets absolutely swamped. Don't forget Hugh Haycox as well. He gets himself into second place. They come out swinging. Now they go over the jump for the first time. Is everybody going to be safe?
Oh, Haycox has trouble getting through the jump.
Oh, and it's going to be a big mess. Drivers having to thread their way through. It is absolute chaos. We'll come back to that in a bit.
Involved.
Oh, well, that is a shame. He's not here for the championship at this point, so just needing a win. They come down to the first of the chicanes here into Della Rosia. Mick Claridge. Oh, and we've got Ian Haycox cutting the course. Same thing with Hideki Koivisto. Hugh Haycox also going in too deep. Number of drivers struggling with that first heavy braking zone.
Yeah, Haycox got into Matt right there. It looks like a couple more cars sent off the track there.
Big attrition in the first lap of this race. I see a slew of drivers in the pits having to take repairs. Claridge survived it. He's leading Rob Olenek. Gary Teal managed to hold on to the draft, but then they've got a gap back to fourth. That's Michael Thomas who's got fourth. Let's take a look at that first accident. Was it Hugh, you said, that first started to get loose?
I'm not sure. It was there was a lot of cars getting loose there at the very beginning. A lot of cars struggling. I think Hugh Haycox was. I think he came down into the inside wall. It looked like.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't actually wreck, as cars just have no way to avoid the chaos behind. Looks like it just caused a checkup. There you see Dudignon getting involved. I think the initial two cars to make contact are Dudignon and Trangrade, it looks like. No, Dudignon and Matt Wright. Matt Wright actually managed to survive it himself. Also had Stuart John involved, Colin Weber. See Matt Wright just thread the needle. Oh, excuse me. No, this is Matt Wright also having his second incident at De La Roja.
Yeah, a couple cars. You mentioned, I think this was Ian Haycock behind him getting late on the brakes, and they just all kind of pile in there. Hideki Koivisto also involved in that, I believe.
And surprisingly, that is not the biggest wreck we've ever seen here at the Roval. Still one of the larger ones that has erupted, especially early on. We see our top three still close together. Claridge leads, Olenek, who's in second, Teal riding behind in third. I wouldn't expect these three to do too much, especially knowing they've got a gap. And I believe Don Good just had an off, which is a shame because he was riding, I think, in the top five even.
Yeah, fantastic start for a lot of those mid-pack drivers like Don Good and Michael Thomas, who started 13th. He's up to 4th. Even Gary Teal coming up from 5th into a podium position, fighting for the lead.
So he gets it going once again. He didn't hit anything, just outbraked himself. He continues in 8th position. Some of these drivers certainly have a good opportunity to get a good finish, having started at the back, if they avoid all the mess. The top three come down to Parabolica, back towards the oval once again. Certainly a lot of discussion happening. Hugh Haycox apologizing for being the trigger for all of the chaos that happened behind him. Sometimes, though, those things just happen on the oval. That jump hard to land it perfectly every single time. And this gives a good example of how powerful the draft is. You saw that number 3 car suck up behind Mick Claridge oh so quickly. And that car going off was Andre Bruno, who was a lap down. Not sure why he took to the grass. Hit the wall a little bit. Hopefully he's able to continue, but he got out of the way successfully.
I'm not sure how much Rob Olenek and even Gary Teal are going to press this issue once again as they go over the crest. I think they just want to log some laps here. Well, just as I say that, looks like they're going to go side by side back there for second.
Well, and Rob Olenek shot out of a cannon, but as I said, I don't think he's going to be able to pull away. Gary Teal thinks that he's just going to wait behind Mick Claridge for the moment. So no pressure there. What about the second group? Michael Thomas, as I mentioned, sits in 4th, but behind him, you've got Hideki Koivisto leading Ian Haycox, leading Andrew Ang, and then Don Good has kept up with him despite his mistake. So 4 cars racing for essentially what is P5.
And you can tell these 4 cars have been through some trouble tonight or this morning. Ian Haycox especially missing a nose cone off of that car, but looks like they're all handling pretty well for the most part.
Yeah, at this point, it seems that Ian's got to stay with this train because he is going to be absolutely miserable in a straight line with that nose missing. It's worth mentioning You know, it's not the easiest of conditions here today, so can't blame some drivers for losing control. It's 105 degrees on the track surface. So they're slipping and sliding around just due to the fact that the sun has decided it's not going to give them a break.
As if it wasn't easy enough to lose the handling of one of these cars in the first place.
Absolutely. That's Andre just going to let this group by now. Cruising. You could see that Rob Olnick set the fastest lap of the race that time by. That one going to be a little tricky to try and snag. Going to have to just time a run right. Come up to the oval once more. You compared this place to Talladega, and I think that's a good comparison, Nick. I believe, is it just slightly longer than Talladega even, I believe? The oval itself?
I believe... I know it's similar. Do you know how long the oval is exactly? Is it 2.3 miles?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's
I know Talladega is
it's a long
2.6, so it's... I think they are similar. I think Monza might be longer if it's upwards of 3 miles.
Now, what happened to Mick Claridge here? We're seeing him ride quite a ways behind these two. It's 9/10 of a second, so he'll still absolutely could catch up to them. It's not dire yet. I'm not sure why he's hanging so far back. No reason to really save fuel around here. No reason to short fuel it. And indeed, you can see he is right back up on them as soon as they get to the braking of Della Rosa. Incredibly, we only have 13 cars left out of our 25 starters. There is literally only half the field left on the track.
Well, I'd say they're pretty good odds for now, more than half.
Last car still running is Glenn Baculis, one of the drivers I don't believe we usually see in this series. We've got a few coming in that aren't regulars, and a few actually coming back who tended to race regularly and disappear every once in a while for some reason or another. I believe Uwe Jacobsen joined us, and I'm trying to see where he went, if he survived everything. Oh, and I guess he's not here. Well, he was in practice. Well, that's a shame that Uwe is not out here today. So as we watch that second group still currently being led by Koivisto up in P5. Ian Haycock's just waiting behind him. If you're wondering, Ian and Hugh are in fact related. Ian, of course, the father, racing from the UK. Hugh studying down in France. Unfortunately not driving at this point due to his incidents. Hugh racing from the pit lane currently, I suppose. Riding on board Andrew Ang. Another difference from here to Talladega, though, the bumps. Look at the travel on the suspension of these cars.
Yeah, thank God there's no NASCAR track that has this kind of abrasiveness to it. That would not go too well. But the suspension here with the Lotus 49s, you can just see them bounce up and down and shake and rattle all over the place. Pretty neat to see them try to handle this place.
Well, Ian tried to get ahead of Koivisto for a moment. Didn't quite work out. It's going to be slow off the jump, and Andrew Ang takes a look at it, then lifts. Seeing he's being covered off by Koivisto on the inside. Guessing everybody's going to get single file. Nope. I called it too soon. Here comes Ian Haycock's around the outside, seeing if he can try and overtake Koivisto. He's almost got it, but it swings back in favor of the Finn as they come to the brakes for Della Rosa. And P5 is going to stay within the grasp of Koivisto for the moment. You mentioned NASCAR having to deal with a track with bumps like this. I believe iRacing for a while sent the carburetor cup here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so,
I believe so.
Not the Roval, mind you, but just on the oval portion. I understand it was a scary ride for those drivers. Thankfully, that's a fun race, so not official driving for those cars.
And I can also confirm we had someone in our viewer chat confirm for us Talladega is actually longer than the oval here by 0.02 of a mile.
Wow. So it's tight, but very comparable, these two. As we jump back to the leaders, Rob Olenek now up at the front, leading Gary Teal. Mick Claridge certainly looking like he's playing possum today. He just is hanging back, leaving a gap up to the front, lest anything happens between those two, knowing he could easily close it if he wants to. And have they been pulling away from Michael Thomas with them working together? Thomas running 25.1, 25.9. Yes, they are pulling away from him, so they are extending that gap.
Yeah, Thomas all by himself. No draft to work with for him, but he is holding some nice pace, just not much he can do by himself.
And Mick Claridge no longer interested in hanging back. He shoots the middle, takes the lead back once again, ahead of Olenek and Teal.
And you mentioned Michael Thomas behind him, if he's closing in or not. I think he's about to be caught by that second pack, actually. Andrew Eng, Hideki Koivisto, Ian Haycox, and Don Good are closing in on him.
So it's going to get all the more interesting. Eng currently leading that group. He's since taken his chance up at the top, ahead of Koivisto, who's now in P6. Ian Haycox down to 7th. Don Good still hanging out at the back, and Good might lose it here because he outbraked himself into De La Rocha. Get an update on the gap. It looks like it's just under 2 seconds. It's awful close. Don's got to hustle now.
Yeah, the worst thing for Don Good right now is to lose that draft, and it's looking more and more realistic for that to happen.
Down to 8 laps to go here at Monza. Come up to the Ascari chicane now that it is a 3-car train. Andrew Eng way too hot into the corner. Somehow he keeps it together and doesn't lose the spot, but he's still sliding off the course, coming off the last apex. That will finally lose him the position as Hideki Koivisto returns to P5. Right on board, Ian looking just up ahead, trying to outgun Andrew the long way around of Parabolica. Not sure that he's quite got the grip, so he's going to stay behind. Don Good is now 2.1 seconds back. This is bad news. Keep an eye on that gap to see if he starts to regain it. Nothing's changed with the leaders. Claridge leads, Olenek leads Teal. Coming up on the driver in 4th of Michael Thomas as we watch these 4 continue to swap around. Eng back in front of Koivisto. And Koivisto was really sketchy off the jump there. He ducked it down way low. And I'm surprised by that because, at least from my experience, the jump is worse off that low side.
Yeah, I think Koivisto just found that out, especially when he landed and found himself, at least the left side tires in the grass there. Did a good job of hanging on to it, but now Ian Haycock's able to get around him.
I think we watched it from onboard Eng. Haycox outbrakes himself. So he's going to lose out, and that's going to give Don Good a little bit of a stepping stone to try and catch up. Can we get an onboard replay of Koivisto coming off the oval? Because, my goodness.
Yeah, the car jumped, had to have been 5 feet at least to the left after he hit that bump.
Watch, see if he gets all 4 wheels off the ground here. Oh, it looked like it to me. My goodness. Not sure why he ducked it so low.
Looks like he had a big run And Andrew Ng in front of him, it's probably just the only place he wanted to go with it. He didn't want to get off the gas much to lose momentum.
Well, the good thing is that puts everybody within draft distance of each other in that group again. But up here at the front, it is Claridge ahead of Olenek, ahead of Teal. They have not changed position since we last looked, last lap. Will it change here, though? Because it looks like Olenek's got a run. And in fact, maybe a little bit of a lift from Claridge just to let him through as well. Let's see if these three are going to be safer up and over the jump. Off the oval they come. Looking a lot smoother for all three. And Claridge reeling Olenek back in. Teal as well, thinking maybe he could get up there. Thinks better of it. Lifts by the time they hit Curva Grande. He's going to stay in third.
Looks like Teal had the best run through there, but you can just see the momentum shift like dominoes back to Mick Claridge, who almost had the pace to get around Olenek. Just didn't quite have the amount of track he needed to get through De La Roja all cleanly, using the curbs to their advantage.
And while that was happening, Andrew Ng has managed to pull away from Koivisto and Haycox, and that's certainly not being helped by the fact that they've got a side-by-side battle right now. You saw him in the background down towards De La Roja. Koivisto decides to let Haycox have it as they come through the chicane. Haycox way too hot in the corner. He goes off into the gravel, and it hands easily back to Koivisto once more.
Really impressed that Andrew Ng's able to pull away that big of a gap. Even though they were side by side behind him, you would have thought that the little bit of draft that these two or three cars with Don Good is getting would not allow that to happen. So a lot of speed out of the number 16 car, Andrew Ng, today, it looks like.
Makes me curious what he can run on his own, if he can still try and chase down Thomas for P4. Right on board with Koivisto, looking back at Haycox. You get flashes of Don Good back there behind them in the white machine. Down towards the Parabolica. Haycox has got to be just a little bit frustrated, feeling like he's fast in these twisty bits, but every time they get to a long straight, there's just nothing he could do on the cars around him.
Yeah, he's making making do right now with that damage pretty well. He gets a big run there on Koivisto. But is he going to be able to keep up that pace?
You can see him stall out now. 5 laps to go. He's going to have to get clever to try and do something to overtake the number 15.
Yeah, he might actually want Don Good to come up here and battle with him, because he might want that little bit of a help. He might be able to use him as a pick.
Look, there he goes. Ducks right in behind him. But it's just too much speed for Don Good. Honestly, Ang might be our hard charger of the race. Started this thing 16th. Now running P5. Oh, Koivisto looking very unsettled once again. Haycox has to go off into the grass to try and avoid him. That interrupts his momentum. Still going to try and outbrake him into the Curva Grande, but it is just not working. But he's strong, very strong, much stronger around the outside this time. He is finding something on that long way around. Can he make it through the corner? Don Good certainly can't, as he's all the way off and in the barriers.
No good.
Poor Don. Such a good opportunity for him. Hopefully the car isn't too damaged that he can keep it going. So hard to get the car woed up in time. The Club West driver does put the left front into the tires. He is running in 8th, though.
Yeah, he is back going. It looks like a fairly soft impact. I'm not sure if that's good here in these cars, but he is back going.
4 laps to go now. Up to the front. Olenek is in front of Claridge, who is in front of Teal. This is our podium fight. and it is not decided by any stretch of the imagination. Coming around the oval once more. They're running such an incredible pace. They've gapped Thomas by nearly 20 seconds. Thomas's only hope is that a wreck erupts in front of him.
I've been noticing that Gary Teal likes to get a big run through the banked sections of the oval, while Mick Claridge likes to get a big run on Olenek on the flat parts, on the straightaways. They go over the jump once again, pretty clean. Claridge may be a little unsettled, if any of them.
That doesn't surprise me. Oh, and here goes Gary Teal. He's going to take his time up at the front. Slingshots by both of them. Mick is an old hand at this track. In fact, of these three, I'd say Olenek is probably the least experienced with this Roval combination. Oh, Ian Haycox, our latest victim. He'd already been dealing with the damage on the front of the car. Oh, it looks like he drifted high on the way into the first part of the oval. Not sure if this would be identified as NASCAR 1 and 2. Oh, did he actually make contact?
With Koivisto. Maybe some wheel lockage there, it looks like.
And it had dire results. If you have an accident at this track on the oval, it's hard to have a small one. So Don Good. Well, actually, what happened to Don here? He's also in the pits. Replay. I'm afraid this might have been the jump.
It was. Very similar to what happened to Hugh Haycox to start this race. The jump went fine. It was where he landed, got sucked into the wall. Thankfully, there was not a 25-car field behind him this time.
They said it's hard to have a small one, and Don Good illustrates it right there with 3 laps left now for our leaders as we come back live. Teal is the leader of the group. Olenek sits in second. Claridge hanging back once again. And I think that the number 2 car is just kind of doing a little bit of research here. I think he's testing out exactly how far back he needs to be.
Yeah, I think he's trying to time that perfectly for a last lap slingshot around these two. Like you said, just doing a little bit of homework and learning and studying back here. They go over the crest cleanly. Yeah, he wants to time that perfectly. He doesn't want to overtake these guys and do it too soon, because then he's going to get overtaken on the last lap himself.
See Olenek just pacing behind Teal. Not going to try and overtake him this time into Curva Grande. Looking through, and this is actually our only fight left because of other drivers wrecking. Everyone's separated themselves from one another. Eng sadly not caught Michael Thomas, so won't have a battle for 4th. In fact, they're very close on pace to one another. Coming through the Lesmos now. It'll be the penultimate lap when they come across this time. And from talking to Mick, he feels very confident about this last part of the track. He's sussed out some tricks through this portion. You can see how much curb he's taking through the Ascari chicane, saying that if you hit it, hit it just right, it's very hard to overtake someone into Parabolica just for the speed you can take off of that chicane.
And Parabolica is a turn just like Curva Grande. It seems like it lasts forever, especially in these cars that you have to get slowed down so much to make the corner.
Cross the line again. Past the pits. We are down to 10 cars. Oh, excuse me. No, not 10 cars. We've had a few return to the track. Andre Bruno has come back out. Urquhart, Coker, and Hugh Haycox are all out there running, just trying to salvage some points. So I believe we are at about 15 cars running. Here comes Mick Claridge. Oh, for the first time, taking a little bit of a look on the backstretch, but he thinks better of it. Doesn't want to go too wide through the oval.
That mindset might be different on the last lap here for Mick Claridge. You might want to take that too wide. See if anyone gets a big run and does anything with it down on the front stretch.
Well, Mick had the run. It looked like he lifted slightly. Is he trying to put himself in second place here? I think he is. Oh, he's braking late here into Curva Grande. Slots back into line. What about the other twos? We're talking about what Mick is trying to do. Surely Olenek and Thiel are also thinking about where they want to position themselves.
It looks like Rob Olenek's taking the same strategy Mick is, trying to time something on the last lap. Meanwhile, I think Gary Thiel, he is setting himself up for a defensive lap of his life.
Not sure that he can really do anything on the oval, though. You've seen how much the cars get a slipstream. You're just basically having to sit and wait for the other cars unless you try a really dangerous blocking move, and I don't think that would really endear you to the other drivers. Ooh, and Claridge maybe a little too much curb through Ascari that time. Car wobbling around. White flag is waiting at the flag stand for these three. Riding on board with Rob Olenek, third car in line. Here's where it all erupts. Off the parabolica, starting to lose a little bit of touch. I think Claridge is backing this one up.
Olenek real tight underneath the gearbox of Claridge in front of him.
Question is, will they go three wide once they get to the regular main straight off the oval? Claridge way low, all the way below the yellow line. Not a typical line around the oval. And Olenek thinking maybe he could get by. Could this scupper their chances? Nope, he thinks better of it. He comes back behind Mick Claridge. Claridge starting to get that run now. Reeling in Gary Thiel. They come around to the jump. This is going to be the critical moment. Oh, and I think maybe a little bit of wall for Olenek off of there. But look at Mick Claridge off like a shot. He is already past Gary Thiel, coming up to the braking zone. Thiel ducks in behind him. Olenek losing out, still sitting in third position. Could be a pass up to Della Rosa, though. Thiel stalking behind Claridge, who is your leader. Nobody makes an attempt down into the Della Rosa chicane. All of them taking as much curb as they dare, trying to stay tucked up to the car ahead. Could we maybe see a pass into Ascari now through the first Lesmo? Claridge still ahead of Thiel. Thiel staying right with him, about a car length behind. A good run off the corner, but I'm not sure if it's good enough. Look at Mick weaving back and forth, trying to break the draft from Gary Thiel. Thiel closing up behind him, but they run out of racetrack. Braking now for Ascari. Can Mick Claridge's tricks work? Off the corner they come. He is looking well ahead of Gary Thiel. It looks like experience is going to pay off for the number two. All he has to do is make one more corner. Mick Claridge braking for Parabolica, trying to find the power around this final corner, and I think he's got it. Give the win to Mick Claridge here at Monza. Gary Thiel going to take second place, and Rob Olenek settles for third. Michael Thomas, with probably the quietest race of anybody, comes around Parabolica himself to get fourth. He's going to be followed home by Andrew Ang, climbing from 16th on the grid to 5th place.
Behind Ang, Hideki Koivisto heading into Parabolica. Despite getting caught up in a lot of battles and troubles today, solid 6th place finish for the driver that started back in 12th.
So Marco Ravioli, who we haven't really watched much at all, also climbed up a fair bit from 20th to 7th for him. Actually, I think that's higher than what Ang was able to do, more positions. He's going to be himself more than half a lap behind the leaders. That's how much it's spread out. The number 19 looking a little bit worse for the wear. Greppler behind him, taking in 8th place. And of course, Sullivan from Michigan with a 9th. And the last car on the lead lap going to be Baculus, who will wind up in the top 10. That's going to close things out. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But stick around, because on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Monza. I said it was a must-watch race, and I'd say we got one. Although, unfortunately, a few drivers had to sit and watch, with the big one happening on the very first lap. But Mick Claridge came out above it all with another victory this season. He's had many already. Gary Teal had to follow him home just due to the wily old veteran being a little bit more clever than those around him. Olenek, unfortunately, could not catch him on that final lap. He has to settle for the final spot on the podium. Michael Thomas, a well-run race for 4th, with Andrew Ang finishing 5th. Hideki Koivisto gets P6 and Marco Ravioli 7th. Harry Greppler finishes P8 with Michael Sullivan taking home a 9th, and Glenn Baculus gets a top 10.
After that, the big one. This is where the drivers that are involved in accidents start rolling in. 2 laps down, Andre Bruno going to finish 11th in front of David Sanchez. Sanchez, quiet races for them. They both started outside the top 20, so still great finishes for them in 11th and 12th. 3 laps down is Ian Haycox. Don Good going to be 4 laps down in 14th. 6 laps down, Philippe Urquhart in 15th. 8 laps down, Hugh Haycox in 16th. 9 laps down, Colin Coker in 17th. Those are the finishing drivers. Ove Train Grade going to begin the DNFs in 18th, Daniel Sadro and Jasmine Beach, the top 20 with Armin Weber. Stuart John, Michelle Duden-Young, a disappointing 23rd place for him, and Matt Wright finishing this in 24th. Francisco Salima in 25th was a did not start.
And we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Mick Claridge going to join us in the booth to get to chat with me for the second time this week. Mick, it certainly looked like you were planning something. We saw you hanging back a little bit there for much of the race.
Yeah, hi mate. Yeah, how you doing, Joe? Yeah. It was. You got to plan it. You can't just go all out at this place. It just doesn't work. You can't get a gap, so it forces you to plan it. So yeah, I just wanted to hang back, and then I just wanted to do some silly fainting overtakes. To get the guys to look in their mirrors and think, what the hell's he going to do on the last lap? That's what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to get them to guess what I'm going to do on the last lap. And they're the same. Everyone's the same. So yeah, it was. It's all cat and mouse, isn't it, at Monza?
Absolutely. Now, earlier this week, you and I talked about the biggest wreck we've ever seen. Now, we didn't top that today here at Monza, but did you happen to be able to see in your mirrors what happened behind you on lap 1?
You know what? From the start, I thought I'm just going to ride the clutch off the line, and hopefully I'll get in front, because I just didn't want to be behind anyone on lap 1. So I got a good start, and then I don't even think it was lap 1. Was it lap 1 crash? I can't remember.
It was lap 1.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So I think it was Hugh went down the inside of me on the second part of the oval, which scared the hell out of me. So I just had to run a real high line just to let him through, and then I just saw him get stuck into the wall on the right hand side. And then I was literally concentrating on who was ahead and what was going on ahead. And then I just looked at F3 because F3 screen was on, and I just saw the names tumbling down, and I just thought, oh my God. So no, I didn't see what happened at all, but I'm just going to watch it back in a minute.
Well, you'll have a lot to watch. There was quite a few involved, unfortunately. So next round, we're going to Silverstone National. What are your thoughts on that very short version of Silverstone?
Do you know what? That is my proving ground. I love that place. That track has got every type of corner on it apart from a chicane. It's just got slow corners, fast corners, and just not a long straight. But it's just the thing that's good about it is it's really easy to learn, and it's really easy to get up to speed. So if I was ever helping guys out, I'd always go to Silverstone National just because of that reason. So I think guys are gonna have a lot of fun there. Having a good fight. Yeah, it'd be good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, some home racing for you next week. Congratulations on the victory. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks a lot, mate.
That was Mick Claridge, our winner. And Nick's going to be talking to Gary Teal, who tried to beat him home but just couldn't outthink Mick Claridge.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Gary? Absolutely a fantastic race there for you. Talk about that last lap. What was going through your mind, and what was the game plan as you were taking the white flag?
Well, I was trying to get, the first 12 laps, you're basically practicing your tactics for the last lap at this course. So I knew Mick and Rob were both faster than me on the infield, and so I tried the tactic of just hugging that after I come off the oval, just hugging that right side, and then outbraking the guy behind me into the upcoming chicane. It worked for a couple of times, but it didn't work on Mick. He just got too big of a run. He ran a 22 flat on that lap with the draft that he got off of me. So yeah, and you kind of, Mick's got a bit of a fragile ego. You kind of have to let him win, or he pouts.
Well, do you think you were going to be able to go defensive at all to hold him off, or did you think you were going to have to slingshot around him once you saw him get side by side in your mirrors?
Well, I kind of knew I'd made a mistake with Mick when I saw the speed that he was coming. I probably made a mistake trying that particular tactic. The best tactic is really to be second or third on this course for anybody that you're racing with any experience on here. So it was just an error on my part.
Yeah, unfortunately, someone's got to lead the pack coming to the white flag. That happened to be you today. But a part of the race where you weren't leading is on lap 1 when you started back in 5th and quickly found your way in the podium. Talk about that and all the chaos that you had to fight your way through.
Well, yeah, that was I started in 5th, but just after the start there, I was back in 7th. Part of that is I've got a compromised first gear, so I've got a much higher first gear than I usually use for starts to deal with that chicane. And I saw a couple of guys coming up there I wasn't really comfortable with. It just looked like trouble coming, so I tried to slot in and get closer to the front, which I guess was good for me because it looked like the accident that occurred behind me just missed my rear end.
Yeah, absolutely. Missed it by just a couple inches, it looked like you said. But it's a good thing that you did because you came home with a nice second place finish, and hopefully you can take that momentum next week to Silverstone.
Yeah. Well, we've all had those types of accidents here. I've caused one myself, so it happens on this track. So yeah, it was still fun.
It was absolutely fun to watch. So go enjoy the rest of your day. Watch the broadcast back. It'll be a good show for you, I'm sure.
All right.
Hopefully we get to talk to you in the next coming weeks.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
That was Gary Teal, second place today. I think he's right. I know I've caused accidents at the Oval back when I raced the 49 as well. And we're going to close up, of course. We want to thank the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and iRacing for bringing us onto the iRacing eSports network so you can see strange combinations like this, Lotus 49 on the Roval. Make sure and subscribe to IESN when you get the opportunity. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. In fact, she just released an EP that you can find at her Bandcamp. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can check us out on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading to Silverstone and the national layout. So definitely watch that. If you think that you've seen too many at Silverstone, we don't get the national layout very often on GSRC. That'll be Saturday, May 4th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.